Oh, sit spot is totally amazing. And I think that's where my underline, sticky notes, flags, all office supply paraphernalia that I have at my fingertips.
Paraphernalia. Yeah.
Colored. Yeah, I have 2 colors of underline with pencil. I don't know what they all mean now.
I know. Color coding is such a brilliant idea when you start.
Right?
Until you look back and you're like, this key that I thought was going to make sense doesn't even make sense.
Well, for me, what it's ending up doing is one color is the first time I read it, and the second color is the second time I read it.
Wow.
Because what's happening for me recently is like I talk, like say for instance, we're after Mass, we're having lunch. And I bring up like what I heard and what I'm reflecting on, and my family looks at me like, were you in the same place we were?
Yeah.
We didn't hear that. Like that.
What language are you listening to?
Exactly. It's like I'm like, but that so resonated with me, and I'm just like, and then the phrase, and they're like, no. So, yeah.
So what, are you taking one word and then make it into the phrase you want to hear, or what?
I in my mind am writing down word for word what I hear, but I think what it is
your interpretation is just different from there?
Not even that. Let's play this little game, okay? And this is how I'll explain it, because we have to experience it. So look around the room. Just, look around the room. And for you listeners, do the same thing. Just kind of glance around the room. A couple of deep breaths, and then close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, I want you to think of the color blue. So just think of images that come to mind that are the color blue. I'm going to sit here for about 3 seconds and open your eyes and tell me what you see.
That was fun! Oh my gosh.
Isn't it just
I see my blue sweater.
Isn't it just popping out at you?
Yeah. Oh my god, that was cool.
Did you notice it before?
No, not at all.
So, I think that's what's happening is that I have an intention and I'm looking for certain things. So, for instance, one of the words or one of the phrases that they didn't hear that I did is, Father said that we're all healers. And I was like, ooh, Marma said we are all healers. And, things like that. I don't remember what else it was that made them look at me like I was crazy, but...
This is so weird that you come up with this idea of healers. Because, I don't know, like this, today I was listening to this thing. It was a documentary, and they were talking about a shaman. And my idea of a shaman, especially like in Spanish, they call them curanderos.
Yes,
like
I know
they're curanderos.
Yeah.
And so I just always kind of gone along with that until in the documentary they said the shaman is not the healer. The shaman is the guide that helps you get rid of all of the blockages that are stopping you from healing yourself. And I was just like, ding! Like that was one of those moments I'm like, yes, like we are our own healer.
We are our own healer.
And that was cool. And when you said the shaman and the healer, that all kind of came to play right now.
We're both the shaman and the healer, you and I especially, because we're coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we hold a space for friends like the ones listening to heal themselves.
Right.
And to see their healing powers. Like magical powers that we take for granted, like touch and attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Definitely. And that goes to show too, with just like holding your attention and setting that intention with the healing and being a healer. So I didn't mean to interrupt you with what you were talking about earlier. Was there something else you wanted to say?
No, it was a total tangent that just kind of fit in, I think.
Okay. I was like,
Oh, it was along the lines of the highlighting. I don't know that my highlighting will align with anyone else's highlighting. but the first thing I highlighted in chapter 6 was that throughout human history, we've lived to restore Eden. The pure, healthy, balanced innocence that is the true nature of each person, each beast, each landscape or bowl of sea. And that can be taken in a lot of different ways. I know that Martha goes into detail about Lanzonata. I know I'm not pronouncing that right. But restoring Eden as ourselves, as a harmony and balance of our own true essence. And that's kind of what we were talking about. With the... Oh, so Solomon's ring, you brought it up, was the sit spot. So Michael Trotta and his wife Lynn have a practice and a company that does sit spots. And if you browse their website, you can actually... I think there's a 14-day free challenge that you can take. But Solomon's ring is the idea of us healing ourselves by going into nature. You know, we can experience our own healing by... I actually heard this earlier, by experiencing nature. Gosh, I forgot the other two. But...
Are you talking about in the book, or are you talking about Michael's work?
Actually, somewhere else that I heard. But the sit spot is this beautiful practice, and she calls it in here. So she just poses a challenge to all of the team members, to do a sit spot for 30 days. Because she said that she's never seen anyone come out of that challenge not be more peaceful, more luminous. How do you say that word, Sarah?
Luminous.
Luminous and healthy.
I believe.
And I think that's one of the...
Luminous.
Luminous. There you go, luminous.
That sounds like a Harry Potter word. Yeah, that's all right.
Luminous. But I think that's why I got so excited last time, because I personally experienced the transformation that I went through in my own sit spot. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted by the birds that are outside. They're bathing. So, just going into our natural world, just experiencing and drawing our attention to what we see, and then asking ourselves what those symbols are saying to us. So sit spot is a practice that I would, just as Martha does, encourage everyone to try. Try. I guess that's why I got excited.
Yeah. Well, and I had to be honest, I haven't done it yet, just because I haven't been able to commit regular sittings, if you will. You know, from time to time I'll be out in the sun, or I'll just be sitting somewhere under a tree looking up and just kind of observe from here to there. And I totally get how that could, after that practice, there's that greater sense of peace. And
that's a really good point. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think, yes, those eyes, So you said that haven't been able to commit to the 30-day practice. I think that's sort of a false barrier. It's sort of if I can't do it for 30 days, I'm not going to start. So if you find yourself, I would encourage you and anyone who feels like they have to have 30 days start on January 1st, and January 31st, or not start over. Because we're sort of robots like that, right?
You have to do it right, right?
If you're going to do it, you might as well. No! You're sitting there waiting for the bus, or, just experience it. Just if you have the 15, 20 minutes to carve out to allow nature to sort of resettle around you, it's phenomenal even one day. I'm going to be honest and share that there was one day I walked out the front door, fully dressed in business clothes. And there was just this sense of awe because I hadn't seen the dew. I guess because of winter. It was the first time I'd seen the dew on the grass. It seemed like in forever, but it was probably just like a season. I mean, we're in Texas, really. It happens all the time. So, full out business clothes, on my way to be somewhere, belly down. I was belly down. I'm looking at the concrete on where I was belly down, like cheek on the. I looked like a crazy woman, I'm sure. And I just stared at the grass. And I just saw this whole other world happening there.
Are you just on a sidewalk? And then you stop and decide, where were you? You're walking
coming out of my house. Yeah, I was coming out of the front door of my house. And the world stopped because I was going to go belly down and just adore these drops of dew on the grass that looked like a field of diamonds. They were just fascinating to me. And nothing else mattered. And I don't know how long I was there, but I got to where I needed to be without being late. So that was cool. So
I applaud you for that. I mean, that
really? I don't know that my neighbors would.
No, honestly. You probably gave them entertainment. I mean, come on.
I know. With binoculars. What is she doing now?
But how many times a day does the average person think a thought like that?
Which is why I'm saying, if the idea is I have to have 30 days in a row before I can experience this magic, my suggestion is throw that thought out the window. Drop kick it like a football. And just take advantage of whatever moment and time you have to do it. Like I said, you could be in front of the bus. You could be, anything. Just be in nature, be outside. Again, I keep saying I'm in Texas because I tend to now, in the middle of the summer, only go out like before a certain time or after a certain time. Because whoo!
Yeah, I can only imagine.
So, yeah, it doesn't have to be 30 days in a row. It will change you. If you allow it to heal you, it will change you in 15 minutes.
Right, and I suppose it's also kind of shaking off that expectation of, I need to do it this certain way. Like, little by little, whatever makes you feel good is what's going to benefit you.
Yes.
Because
there
I
is no certain way.
There'll be times I'll be looking at the garden, and then I'll look down, and instead of looking at the petals and stuff, I'll look at the dirt, and then I'll look, even deeper. I'm like, ooh, it can be really entertaining, and then I'm like, but I should do the sit spot, or that's part of it,
Yeah. We should all throw our shoulds out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we say that earlier in one of the...
You did say one of your shoulds or... What'd you say?
We shouldn't should all over ourselves. We have to stop shooting all over ourselves. Let's not have that in our vocabulary.
That to my vocab. Yeah. Well, one thing in this chapter, too, that Martha really touches on is the relationship with animals.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I don't know why. I just thought of this. When we first did our first recording, I told you that my cat, the moment we started speaking, she came next to my computer and was listening.
Mm-hmm.
Said, see, it's our audience. And you were so surprised that I had a cat. That I was a cat person, you said. That I was a total dog person. And I think about that more and more, especially in connection to this chapter.
Uh-huh.
Just the different ways that animals have an influence on us.
Mm.
I think about that too in terms of domestic, your pets. The animals that you love and hold dearly. When I was growing up, my first pet was a black lab.
Oh, I have a black lab.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're sweeties. And that's the biggest thing. I always thought, I don't know. Do you know the movie The 101 Dalmatians?
Mm-hmm.
In the scene where the people are walking down the sidewalk, and it tends to be that each animal, each pet is kind of a reference of the owner. Kind of,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
you'll
yeah.
see a little bulldog kind of like scrunching around, and then you look up and it's like this curmudgeon of a man, that kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I always, especially in my younger years, I thought of that a lot, and I was like, yeah, like, I want my animal to be a representation of me in some
Uh-huh.
way. And so I always identified as a dog person, and especially more and more with the transformation that I'm going through, like, I know this sounds insane, but I've been reflecting more on like how my cat is a reflection of me. And one thing that I'm coming to terms with is that she is like the epitome of self-love. Because you
Aww.
think of a cat, and your cat is going, it doesn't call, like, come when you call, like, come here, kitty, kitty. No. If she feels like getting up, she's going to get up. If she feels like cleaning her face with her paw, she's going to do that at that moment.
Uh-huh.
And that's one thing, like, there's no apology involved with it.
Yeah.
But she requires, not requires, but she receives the affection of everyone around her. You know what I mean? And so that's something when I was reading about the animal relationships and just different things that you can learn from animals. They teach you in so many ways if you let yourself contemplate it a bit.
Yes. Yes. And one of the things that's interesting about the sit spot is that you'll see a new animal or an animal will come close to you. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I'm at a loss for words because I agree.
One thing that Martha writes about like learning magic from our familiars,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that kind of I wanted to mention is just
What
kind
page
of
are you on?
my misconception of it, I guess, too. I'm on page 97. So she was talking about what this naturalist Henry Benston had said, but then she kind of gave her twist, and she said, I now believe that we can create a wilder world, not just an older and more complete one, in which animals help us hear the voices in which we've only temporarily gone deaf. And I think that is just reminding us how much of a teacher our animals can be.
Well, how much of a teacher everything is around us? How much of a mirror everything is that's around us? How I was on page 105 and it says stay open to observing whatever happens. That's what animals do. I mean, they don't hold on to 10 years ago. They're open to what's happening now. Oh, you know what was interesting is the studies that she references about animals knowing when their owners are coming home.
That is insane.
Yeah, and David lost. We had a Chinese crested powder puff Chihuahua, and we lost her a few months ago. And she was David's companion. Everyone knew, like it was almost like she was a mistress in the house. We had that kind of relationship with each other. I mean, I would give her dirty looks. She would turn her butt at me. It was a lot of fun. But
I can tell.
But she knew when he was coming home. I mean, they had this, and there was, I don't know where it says in the book, but his heart was opened by his relationship with her. I think before all of our pets, while we've been married, belonged to the boys. Our first home pet was a golden retriever that we had for 16 years, and then Abby, and then Panda. Her name was Panda. Her real name was Eva. We called her Panda.
She even had
yeah, she even
a
had that
saucy
kind of name, Eva. Yes. So that our pets or our animals soften us. They open our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
But What did I underline? Releasing all attachments draws animals and other things towards you. I underlined that because...
Say that one more time.
On the bottom of page 105, it says, stay open to observing whatever happens. And then I underlined, it's the bottom paragraph. Experiment until you find out through experience how powerfully the combination of picturing something and releasing all attachment draws animals and other things towards you. That is really where we started our conversation. You know, when we're thinking of experiencing or committing to a practice or learning something, we immediately think of the outcome of having done it with an attachment. We don't just move through that experience and have it and allow whatever's going to happen in us to happen. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was a really good sentence to draw everyone's attention to, is this dropping of an attachment.
Right, and it's more of that idea of, instead of seeing something as a means to get somewhere else, it's more of meeting it where it is and accepting that as part of the outcome. Yeah. That alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
That's something, I guess, that kind of brings me to that idea of you in relationship to people, relationships with people. Do you remember the you in the book?
Chapter 7? Mm-hmm.
What chapter is it?
Chapter 7. You went right into it. That's perfect.
Yeah. I don't know why when I said that, I just kind of realized how I do that with certain people, I guess, especially when I travel. I was thinking about one of my trips, like a little day trip I took when I was in Guatemala, and we had gone to the biggest animal market in Latin America. And it was just something to see, to observe, to kind of have the experience. And I think it was on my way back. I think maybe I was able to allow this to happen because I was on my way back. I had accomplished my goal of going to the market, experiencing it. And I was on a chicken bus on the way home, and it was kind of chaotic and nuts. Mm-hmm. And, I was sitting 3 to a bus seat. And I was sitting next to this little indigenous woman. Mm-hmm. And I have this absolute fascination with indigenous people, indigenous wisdom, their way of life, everything. And so, especially in the part of Guatemala that I was, Spanish wasn't always the dominant language. It was some other indigenous language. And so I'd been accustomed to the fact that as much as I want to talk to a little indigenous lady, it might not work. And so I kind of was just sitting next to her, gave the smile awkward, I'm sitting really close to you right now. And then she started speaking to me in Spanish. And it caught me off guard, one, because I didn't expect it. Mm-hmm. And two, there's this genuine curiosity coming from her. It was just really fun to speak with her, and just a lot of times, unfortunately, I feel during my experience, certain indigenous people are very closed off in terms of especially dealing with tourists. I mean, come on, mm-hmm. that kind of thing. But she was asking me thousands of questions, and I remember her, I asked her what her name was, and I don't remember anything else about the conversation, but I just remember how she made me feel it was just this exciting moment, and that her name was Ursula. And it was so funny because The Little Mermaid was my ultimate Disney movie. I had the Little Mermaid sleeping bag, I had the Little Mermaid toothbrush, I had the Little Mermaid everything. And then the main character, the main antagonist in the movie is Ursula. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, I don't know what the connection was, but it was kind of like this whirlwind. I can't even express it right now, and I don't know why. It was just that you moment. Like,
Uh-huh.
it was a total, and it will be with me forever. And I still don't know what it means necessarily, but like, it was meant to happen. And it was just so fun. It was so liberating in a weird way. Just kind of like a yes, like, cha-ching.
Say more about liberating.
I guess maybe it was that liberating, like allowing the connection.
Oh, so of not being closed off, of being open to the experience then because you had accomplished your goal, so you were like relaxing. You had taken a deep breath. You're like, okay. Like that? No?
No, I mean, partly yes, but also kind of like receiving that same reciprocity of curiosity from like a different culture, a
Oh.
different, like a deeper connection. You know,
Yeah.
like there are all these like superficial differences and shoulds and shouldn'ts in terms of cultural behavior, and then like that was kind of void in that moment.
Do you find yourself having a lot of sort of weather conversations, or are they just naturally deeper than that?
What do you mean?
Like,
In what
oh, like
circumstance?
in passing, like, oh,
Oh yeah.
nice weather kind of
No, I
thing.
don't. I don't allow myself to go deep with a lot of people.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Because
Interesting.
I
I
am
can see how that
hesitant.
was liberating then.
Yeah, right. Like I don't like small talk, and I feel like unless you have small talk, you don't get to those deeper conversations sometimes.
Oh, I totally skipped a small talk. I think I do. I don't know. Like, we'll all have a conversation with someone and we'll both go, how do we get there? You ever experienced?
Yeah. And I'm much more of a listener, I think, whereas I believe just from our relationship, sometimes you are more of the leader in a conversation.
Really?
Yeah.
But I'm taking your lead. Don't you? Do you tell me where I'm wrong? Like, it'll be a thought that you almost gave me to say.
Yeah, and sometimes. Yeah. Oh, this is really weird right now.
Is it? Why?
Well, I'm just trying to like it's surprise. I don't know. Like maybe it's just like these like kind of like identifiers. Like I would just assume that you would think that also. But
Oh.
obviously
Mm-mm.
you don't think that way.
No, it's not that I don't like it.
No, that you don't think that way.
Oh, that I don't think that way. No, it's not. It's not what I feel. I think that there are situations where I do definitely lead the conversation, and especially in certain relationships, or attempt to. I haven't been very successful with my youngest son. He seems to get everything he wants, and I sort of go, and how did that happen? You know what I mean? But But specifically between you and I think what I have felt is just that being born, that that there is something there, and that it's in almost I'm just going to say it the way it's coming to my mind, that it's in you, and that I say it or I open a door for it to be said because it was already there. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, and I do partly agree with that because, you know, like for the flow of the conversation, that's sometimes how it does happen. But if you weren't like
Oh,
pulling it out of
yeah.
me, you know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
I don't know.
So I see that. So you're saying I'm leading because I'm sort of drawing it
Right.
out. I'll
Yeah.
accept that. Yeah.
Because I'm like,
And for
yeah.
me, it's not even that I'm drawing. I guess the experience that I have is that I'm not even, there's no effort in the drawing out. It's there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but in so many ways, there's no way in hell I'd have like conversations like this with other individuals. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Which is why I'm saying these conversations are just so natural for me. Like, it could start with, talking about a cloud, and then we're down a completely different path because that's where that person really wanted to go anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe that's something that's kind of the liberation that I'm referring to, because for me, it doesn't happen that easily.
That makes sense. That makes sense, Mrs. Cat.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just sit on my pillow and purr. You can come to me. No. God, this is horrible.
It's not horrible at all. It's real. And Chapter 7's title is You, Human Relationships as the Gateways to the One. On page 111, it says, we English speakers often describe people we like as having a good vibe or being on the same wavelength. I think, and Martha writes, I think this began with physicists' 20th century discovery that matter is really just energy, each element vibrating at a different frequency. Oh, this is bringing me some insight.
Insight?
Well, I was actually contemplating this earlier, interestingly enough. Somebody said to me, they met me at a conference and said, you have such good energy. And then I was sort of, you know how you thread things together? Mm-hmm. And then I was threading that with something else and someone else and someone else. And it was these things like, you have such a light about you. And it's almost like a fish in water. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like it felt weird to me for people to say that. This energy thing. Like
recently?
Just
that felt weird to you?
It felt weird to me to think about that. Like, I want to understand it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't understand what that means. And the only way I could think of it is that it's so close to me that I can't see it. Like, even at my Vipassana retreat on the 10th day, the 10-day silent. Have you heard of that?
No.
So it's a Vipassana retreat where you're taught Vipassana meditation, and it's 10 days of silence. And like 14 hours a day of meditation.
My God.
You're on this whole food, no electronics. It's just this purification, basically. Yeah, exactly what we were saying. Pinch a poke, yo, me coke. At the end of it, because you go into this slow reintegration, and so that you don't like freak out when you go back into the world, right? Because you've been in silence and solitude. And at the end of the 10th day, you could talk as soon as you left the meditation hall. And there were 2 or 3 women that literally said to me that there was light radiating from outside in. And it made me want to just run away. Because I kind of just looked at them like they were crazy. I was like, have you ever done that? Like somebody says something to you and you're like,
Yeah. Well, it's too far out there for you to...
I just don't get it. I don't get it. How can you say that to someone? How can you say, like, oh, you're bright? Or you have such good energy? I mean, what does that really mean? Does that make sense?
Right. Well, I mean, just like in the way that you're saying it, do you see it as that it's just they're attracted to you? That attraction. Not obviously in the physical sense, but that pull.
I don't know. Is that what it is?
That's what I think it is.
Is it? Interesting. So it's like two magnets that are close to each other. They're gonna just, you know how they just invisibly just sort of like that.
Well, it's an appreciation of it, an acknowledgement of it, that there's something that you have that they're drawn to or attracted to.
But it doesn't exist. Does that make sense? Like, it's not something you can touch and see and feel. And that's what you're looking at me like, huh?
Right, this is so foreign to me because especially with this concept of like love and connection, all of that is not tangible.
Ah, that's true. But I understand that.
I don't see how this is like...
You know, in Martha Beck says, you know what you know. Like, know what you know. And I guess I'm just admitting that part I get. Like, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
The whole energy and the good vibrations, the science of, I guess, these wavelengths and reading people, I don't get, is all I'll say. Because I feel like I'm going...
So is it more of like the boiling it down to the scientific, like the actual physical vibration or the physical wave flowing?
Maybe that's where my mind is blocking it. But I don't know that that's really what Martha was talking about. What she's saying is that we are drawn to strangers who are really on the same drive to heal humans in the world. So I can see that, where maybe someone's drawn because they see that same intention.
Well, I think of this like, I don't know, and maybe I get, and tell me where I'm wrong, I kind of get the hunch that you're trying to like pinpoint it, like, you know, to me it's like, okay, so let's say you have two children, okay, and as a mother, if you're, you know, when your children are younger and you were at a park or whatever, there is some kind of uneasy feeling, you sense that and you wanted to react. Maybe it was to a particular person. That would be like the opposite or the negative of a good vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love how our brains, us as humans, how when we contrast, like it's almost like we're it's easier to put puzzles together when we think of the opposite. That was a really good way to frame it, Sarita.
I don't know. I mean, that's just the way, because I'm like a visual, like, you know, a metaphor helps you understand something or an example. And so maybe I'm missing something, but
No, I think some of us see things and some of us have blind spots for things, and that's just the way it is. Like, one of the things about you and human relationships, what I see is people, and me not being out of these people, you know, me being part of the group, obviously, is running away from a relationship when it's really there to teach you, you know, and thinking that this relationship, even if it's not this person, but this relationship is going to come up again because it's a lesson to learn.
Mm-hmm. Now you have me wondering what Ursula was meant to teach me.
That it's so fun, isn't it? That it was just so easy to be fascinated by each other. Say
Ursula and think of it as like a good vibe instead of Ursula.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where. I'm just like all over the board today.
We are where we are, and that's where we are. Oh, on page 114, I underlined something. It said she's... Oh, the hand thing. Have you ever done the hand thing?
You're like pushing down, pulling up.
Yes.
Yes, and yeah, I don't know, because having lived in Ecuador and literally been on the equator, like you can do that with like the magnetic force and stuff.
You can?
And,
What do you
like,
mean?
So, there are two different locations, like, of the middle of the world in, like, the tourist location. And so one was, like, a little bit off, and then the other one is, like, as indicated, like, literally, like, the 00 latitude.
Ooh.
And so if you stand on one side of the line, of one side of the hemisphere, if you put your arm out or whatever, or they do this where you kind of make your finger like an OK sign. And if someone, it's the same with the arm as with your fingers. If someone stands, if you both are standing on the same side and they try to open your finger, the force, you have strength, and it's pretty easy to keep your fingers closed and shut. But if you two move and you're standing directly on that line, the person can open up your fingers, it's like jello. Like, it's just really easy to do that. Same with like pressing down on your arm. Off of the equator, you know, you can kind of maintain your strength. But the minute you're like 00, it's just like you have no no
What
strength.
is that?
They say it's like the magnetic forces.
So you've done that. What did that sensation feel like? Tell us about the experience.
On the equator, or when I was just
like,
trying with...
Yeah.
It's something that you just, like... It's that scenario when someone's telling a story and they're like, oh, I don't know, you just had to be there. Like, it's one of those things that...
There are no words to describe it.
It's like this kind of like, just like this, I'm seeing it, so I have to believe it, you know, but it's so hard to kind of conceive, to, you know, I don't know. But, so then it makes me leery. I tried doing the exercise with someone when they were telling the truth versus telling a lie. And it didn't really work so great.
It didn't?
No. I've only tried it once.
Well.
But still.
Well. You know which one I like, and I don't know that it's in the book, but I've seen Martha do it before. Have you seen the thumb thing? I use that a lot to try to figure out when I'm lying to myself. So I'm just thinking, not thinking, and then I'm thinking of stuff that I know that I like, you know, vanilla ice cream, sunsets, really cool stuff, right? And then I think of something like, I ask myself the question as if it's true. And if my thumb, my index finger, is this my index finger? This one?
Yeah.
My index finger has been making a circle clockwise around my thumb, like my thumbprint. And when I say that as true in a statement, like, I love cleaning toilets. Did you see that? Like, it stopped
like
moving. So my body secreted oil on my thumb before I even said the statement because it knew what I was going to say. Do it out loud. Or did you already do it?
And I'm just trying to get the feel of the thumb right now. Okay, so should I just say random thoughts?
Yeah,
right
you're
now?
just in sort of not a neutral, sort of positive.
So should I think of like question beforehand before I start spinning?
No, just think of stuff you know is true. Like, you love your fiance, you love your parents. You know, this is really fun talking to Vivian. And then say something that you know as a lie as true.
I'm like getting stage fright right now. Okay.
Mine was really easy because it's like I said, I love cleaning toilets. So not true.
Okay, so...
I'm watching your finger so I can report it to everyone.
All right, so my walls are teal. I have a lot of white. I can't believe I thought of that or saw that blue shirt right away. Vivian's watching me. I'm not doing this right because I'm not thinking of the good things, right?
Well, it's not even that it's good. It's just that it's true to you.
Okay. It was really warm out today. It was really muggy. I was so happy I turned the air conditioning on. I love the color green, and I am not hungry right now. Which one wasn't true?
Oh, I see what you were doing. You were saying things, but the attention has to be... You sort of have to notice the pattern that your finger's doing around your thumb. And so if there's a choice that you're going to make and you don't know, like, should I go out with my friends tomorrow night, right? Or I'm going to have so much fun going out with my friends tomorrow night, and you really think that you won't, your thumb will secrete oil and your finger won't turn as easily. Like, we can't lie to ourselves. Like, it's sort of one of the technologies of magic, like... Our bodies know before our brain even...
Mm-hmm. That's a tricky one. I'm going to have to practice that. I'm going to go cross-eyed staring at this.
Well, it's just noticing how easy it is to run your index finger in a clockwise around your thumb. And then the minute that you tell a lie or intend to tell a lie, it stops.
Yeah. It kind of like slides.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh. Tricky little thumb.
Tricky little body.
Well, that kind of goes into this one idea that I had kind of highlighted. I don't know. I think it was just kind of like a topic of interest. When it's, like if you're talking about like your body always knows.
Mm-hmm. What page are you on? I'm
on page 112, actually. I'm backtracking a little bit. It's talking about kind of the link between, like, your wave patterns and your heart rhythm. Mm. Because it was talking... I'll just read the paragraph just to make sure I'm following myself. So this is on page 112. Mm-hmm. It's the last paragraph before the... How is this possible? Mm-hmm. It says, a particularly fascinating aspect of the remote connection experience is when this linking occurs. The brain that has the most coherent wave patterns associated with calm, relaxation, and peace, seem to pull less coherent brains into synchrony. Am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. With it. A process called entrainment. This effect also seems to influence the heart. One researcher found that when two people focused on one another while thinking loving thoughts, their hearts created more coherent rhythms and became highly entrained. All those cliches about healing hearts or two hearts being as one might be literally true. And so, I don't know, I instinctively try and find okay, how could this be true? Find an example. And I think of twins. Mm-hmm. And how there are so many experiments done with that and that kind of a thing. And if this idea of oneness is what you're starting to kind of focus and experiment with, that's essentially what all of us are. All of us are a reflection of ourselves. All of us are twins. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of that, expansion and connectedness. And the science is now here to kind of help support that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting that we knew this before the science proved it, which is where all these little phrases came from.
Mm-hmm.
We know this, and that's I think that's one of the most interesting things about working in this capacity, is that uncovering of knowing that we already have, that it's not anything we need to learn. It's already a part of us.
Yeah, and this idea of the cliche itself, a cliche is always kind of like brushed off as something, that's silly. But obviously it's stuck around to become a common phrase in our language and something that we use to express ourselves and the experiences.
Because over thousands and thousands of years, that's what we figure out. Oh, I just read a phrase that made me think of Ursula.
Really?
Huh? On page 125, suspend your disbelief in the wonderful things. And then I'm going to skip some words and I'm going to read. Feel the wisdom you've been trying to teach yourself, although your mind chose to see it only by fixating on other people.
Where are you?
The bottom of page 125. I'm totally messing up the exercise, but I just wanted to read those words. They just like lit up. Suspend your disbelief in the wonderful things your beloved is saying. Feel the wisdom you've been trying to teach yourself. I love the way that sounds. Doesn't that sound like poetry? Feel the wisdom you've been trying to teach yourself.
And I love that idea of suspend. It puts me in this place of suspension. Like I can visually feel like that wave or that energy or that connection that I had at that moment. Mm-hmm. I was suspended in that moment.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I can see that now. We have been chit-chit-chatting for an hour. We try to make these short, but we keep talking. So
I know. We're going to have to figure something out.
Are there any final thoughts you want to say about you?
I don't know. This last thing I kind of had noted in talking about this idea of you. You know, we're talking about seeing yourself in someone else or someone that you have imagined or just know is the right connection at the right time, kind of a thing. And so I could see how that might also be a concept that you want to avoid for some particular reason. And on page 119, Martha kind of talks about that remedy and she says, if you sense that someone's energy is unsettling or toxic, oh God, I need water. It's imperative to hold a mental position of deep connection. Not connection to the difficult person, and certainly not to his or her unsettling mind, but the wordless love you feel in nature with a pet and with a baby. This is a radical form of deep practice. And so, I don't know, with that, like, I think, okay, it's easy to see, like, the connection in a joyful experience. Mm-hmm. You know, with that whole Ursula situation, like that was all butterflies and fun feelings. And so sometimes that idea of oneness and connectedness can be, you don't want to see that connection sometimes. And this is just a good reminder that it's not necessarily for, the difficult person or the unsettling or toxic mind or thoughts. It's just the love you feel.
I like that you use the word love, because on page 120, Martha says that she's resisting it. She's resisted calling oneness by the more common word love, because of its, heaviness and romantic intentions, and that is. But that is my word for oneness. It is love. I
feel like I should break out into the Beatles song.
Which one?
All you need is
love. I am sort of lost in page 119 again. Huh. If you sense that someone's energy is unsettling or toxic, it's imperative to hold a mental position of deep connection. Not connection to the difficult person, and certainly not to his or her unsettling mind, but the wordless love you feel in nature.
And it isn't easy, especially at first. But the more you do it, the more you rewire your brain to sustain love constantly and easily. So the worst case scenario or the worst case result is that you'll be unfazed by others' dark energy.
I think I do that. I think I do that, and maybe like I entrain or I pull and other people's energy up, and that's what they feel. And maybe because I haven't experienced that, that's why I wasn't understanding it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm around someone and they feel lifted or they feel inspired, then they'll say, "Oh, you have good energy," because in comparison to theirs, they feel that, right? So I'm saying this out loud because this makes sense now. I didn't get it because I haven't been in front of a person that I go, "Whoa," right? Which is sad now that I think about it. I want to be around people that make me feel like that. That I see light coming. Or that I feel their energy drawing me up.
Well, and I agree with you that you do that in the sense that like you have that capability that it's a practice of yours.
But I didn't see it. I didn't understand it.
Right, but I mean, essentially, you're still doing it.
Yeah, but not on purpose.
Is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing. I guess I just didn't... reading this, when you read it, I understood it. I understood that.
But I don't think it's always necessarily a comparison of good or bad.
No, not at all. No, I don't. Not in the sense...
when you talk about like bringing you up.
I think it's not that it's good or bad. It's just that there are different stages. There are different... Like, sadness isn't bad, but it's a lower energy than anger. Does that make... So,
yeah.
It's just that there's a spectrum of it. Like the rainbow. It's just a spectrum. When the light hits it a certain way, it turns a different color.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate it in my brain to that, since I haven't felt that experience. And I guess that's what I was saying earlier, is that I didn't understand those words. I really didn't understand that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make me weird?
No.
One of the things I think that's beautiful about you and I talking about this, like, real, like authentically, like in our experience of what we're having with the book, is that these are probably the exact same words that I'm going to just talk to you, that you are thinking of, that you like Sarah says, am I doing this right? And I'm like, is that weird? Those are probably thoughts that you've had. And so it's kind of cool that we're being ourselves and that you can see that it's just totally normal to be in whatever stage of transformation you're at.
Mm-hmm.
We are in June. This is June 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie Inside Out came out.
I'm going to that tomorrow.
I got to watch it yesterday. It was so amazing. I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. So the idea of subconscious and the different emotions, it was just beautiful. But there's a scene in there, when you did the finger, there's a scene in there where the emotions inside the husband are like, she gave me the look. What's the look for? And the little emotions inside are like, she's giving us the look. And on the other side, she's like, signal him again.
So cute.
I totally messed that up, but it was a cool movie. I liked it.
I'm excited for it. I think it's so exciting that there's conversation at this kind of a level about these things.
About Disney. It's Disney easy. We can understand it. When they go down into the subconscious, it's dark and it's just, I loved it. I cried. I laughed. It was epic.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it was totally epic. I took a picture with the poster. I was so excited. I felt like a little girl. Yeah. I was like, I'm at the movies. But, so, we are done with, let's go to parts 1 and 2 of the book. And so our next session will be part 3, my favorite technology of magic, imagination.
This is my scariest.
Why?
Well, I guess it's not my scare. There's one exercise that kind of I don't even know how I can get there kind of a thing right now. It's still out of reach. When you're talking about that process of transformation.
Suspend your disbelief.
Right.
Suspend your disbelief. I read somewhere that somebody said, you think faith is easy? If faith was easy, there wouldn't be any mountains. Because, there's the saying in the Bible that says faith can move mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Suspend your disbelief. So we'll leave everyone with that. Suspend your disbelief. We will go into Imagination Station next.
Yay.